Hey guys, WaifuGate here again. So today we're doing the viewer deck analysis. It's a weekly thing that happens. Usually I upload the videos on Saturdays. We do the recordings for these usually on Thursdays though. So if you guys are interested in seeing your list reviewed, just drop by the stream on Thursday and say hi and then just throw your deck in chat. You don't have to be followed or subbed or anything. It's completely free. Um, don't do that. Don't... Uh, Don't just gem your list there, way. Like have it on an exportable list or something for AetherHub so I can look at it like this in an organized way. That's really hard to parse. What do you think about the Bant right now? Bant's pretty decent, Blake. It's not bad. I think Bant's really, really strong. I just like Esper because it's more fun. So getting back to the video real quick. So this list is one that we played against viewers today. These are all basically lists aside from Crim's list that we played against viewers with today. I do that occasionally too, so if you like that, definitely drop by the stream. But getting back to this, basically the idea is we look at the main deck sideboard if there is a sideboard, if it's not for best of one, and I kind of analyze like what I might change about it, what I like about it, what I dislike, etc. And then kind of how it shapes up in the meta, whether that's best of one or best of three. Right now, it's a little hard to do that because the meta is not solidified at all. So we're all just guessing. So this is my guessing and my takes on people's decks. So here we go. So this one is it's called Citadel Fun. This is by Anti-Shatter, I believe. We played against this list like 2 or 3 times. And it was pretty fun. We won both games, I think, but it's because basically we had a lot of answers for like what they wanted to do pressure-wise. But getting into it, I have lots of early game plays with Omen of the Season Births, which I like. The neutralizes are okay. These things are always nice because you can cycle them versus Teferi. And you can also counter Teferi with them if it's not too late, if Teferi is not established yet. So just a win-win. Even against Narset, you can cycle this on your opponent's turn and they can't stop that. Just don't fall for the cycling on your turn to get your land drop when they have a Narset out. Don't do that. Acuity is a bit of an interesting choice. Honestly, they don't have a lot of procs for this aside from like no, they don't have any really, I don't think, aside from like neutralizes on a main phase. So I would probably just take these out, probably just for revitalizes to draw and go. So that's probably what I would do first, is just -2 these for revitalizes. Brazen Borrowers are fine. You could also just swap this for like a Brazen and then put in like another Birth or something or whatever. It's pretty flexible. I just don't think Dovin's is correct. We've got Simulacrum, which is pretty interesting. I like this ramp, especially with Citadel. I think this pairs pretty well. Like being able to cheese this out earlier in U White is pretty awesome. 4 Shatter is pretty standard for aggro, especially in best of one, which this doesn't have a sideboard for. So I assume it's best of one for the most part. 3 Teferis. I think we could go up a Teferi too. So I'd probably just cut these for like an extra Borrower, extra Teferi. Cut these maybe for Revitalizes or something for whatever. Because you just need life gain. That way you can start profiting and going off and keeping up the Citadel, you know? That's pretty important. Ajani's I would probably cut for better cards. Probably just Narset, something like kind of early game where you can find, you know, like a Shatter the Sky, some type of answer, maybe life gain, etc. I just don't think these are very good in the list. It just kind of fights the shatters too. Like you don't want to be throwing down kitty cats when you're just going to blow them up. Not very fun. Maybe it is fun for some people, but I don't think it's good. So you've got 3 Elspeths too, which is pretty standard. I like it. Fine. And then Citadel's good too. Veto for damage when you're playing through your life gain. Yeah, I think so too. And that's pretty interesting too. Like maybe as a 2 of it can stay. I just feel like we need more life gain before we have things that like allow you to profit off of life gain, if that makes sense. Because the acuities don't have any way to proc aside from Shatter, and that doesn't even count. Like the only acuity procs you have are Brazen Borrower, I think. Unless you're instant casting stuff. Or Solemn, yeah. Yeah, Dovin's isn't the right card here. I think Revitalizes are better. So like Revitalizes, maybe Narsets instead of these. because added in Wish and a sideboard. Okay, that's a good change too. If you took out the Primates for that anti-shatter, we get the guy that's that originally constructed this deck in chat right now on Twitch. No, you guys can't see that on the YouTube video, but he's here with us. So, and then we've got this, which is just awesome. Like Citadel's pretty fun. You can also add like, you can have a Citadel in your sideboard too, so you can wish for it, which is nice. So you can start going over the top. And you can always +1 the Teferi as well. I'd say 4 Teferis are pretty good too. So I'd cut these, Teferi, wish sideboard, etc. Sounds like really good changes, honestly. And I think this pairs well against a lot of aggro lists, just in general. Like most decks that run Shatter, if you get Shatter, you win. If you don't, you have some walls, you have Brazen to tempo, you have Teferi to tempo, etc. And you're gaining life too with this list. So just a really nice stuff. Narset also shuffles the deck. Not shuffles, but like if you're stuck with a land on top and you activate Narset, you get to put 4 cards on bottom. Therefore, your top card might be something else you can cast. So that just keeps the deck going. Whereas Ajani doesn't. Like, he just is there. So that's something I like. So I'd say 2 Narset, 2 or 3 tops. That's what I would do. Other than that, this list looks really fun and different to play, which is nice. Especially in a best of 1 format, you can just kind of relax and chill out. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. Here we've got another viewer list. We're going to do the non-viewer list last. So this one was really stressful to play against because of Rewind, but not because Rewind is a good card, because Rewind is a counter spell and I didn't have enough things to disrupt them. So I would say this is also set up for best of 3 as well. And this makes more sense, like 2 disputes side, 2 disputes main. It's not the covert ghost, or who is it? Who is it that does it? Croakies. It's not a Croakies special where we just have 2 disputes in the sideboard for, I don't even know why. I don't get the math behind it. But thank you for not doing that. I appreciate that. So we've got the combo here. It's pretty cute. It's Underworld Dreams and Peer into the Abyss. So what it does is whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld deals 1 damage to that player. This says target player draws cards equal to half the number of life in their hand and loses half their life, round up each time. So what'll happen is they lose half their life and then they lose for drawing cards. So it's pretty sweet. It's pretty big damage. It's got Nissa to ramp, to Fairy just to stall, and to draw and go. Like you're able to draw, discard, get Euro fed. You've got Growth Spirals for ramp, 2 eliminates, 2 negates. I would say cut the rewinds and run more disputes probably. I don't think rewinds are good. I think they're trash, especially if you're not like casting at instant speed on your opponent's turn. They're just really bad cards. They're just not good in the meta right now. It's just 4 mana is too much. This gets disputed and you're sad. I'd say if you were like on Nexus of Fate or doing something else weird or whatever else, like there are other reasons why you would want mana untapped, but like if you're not making use of it, it doesn't make any sense. Like you don't even have a Castle Vantress here for like the untapped lands. Like it's just garbage. So I would say just replace these with runnable cards. Like maybe an extra eliminate. You could go 3 remorse. You can go 3 negates. You could up the number of disputes. There's like a million things you can do with these, but I don't think running rewind is good. I would say you could almost cut the Peer down to 2 since you can kind of dig for it when you need to. Like you'll eventually draw it and you don't want it just sitting in your hand because you literally can't cast this card unless you have this one. So I'd say bringing this down to 2 is probably fine. And then you've got Nissas, which are fine at 3. Like I agree with that. I would say you could cut this for like a Crassus or 2. Because you're ramping with Nissa, right? So you need kind of a dump for that. I would say cut the Teferi and cut the Peer by 1 to add in 2 Crassus. That way you have some more bursty life gain. And then you also have a way to dig, like draw 6 cards and then find your Peer because you just drew a bunch, right? And then go off. That's what I would say would be nice. Everything else about the list looks pretty solid for what it is, which is just like kind of a fun like control type deck that wins in its own unique way. Very what's that called? It's not Johnny. It's And it's not Spike, it's the other one. I forget. I keep forgetting the last archetype for that. Yeah, Narsets could be okay too for the rewinds. I just think like the other stuff is already pretty strong. So adding, yeah, Narset would also help dig for the Pure when you need it, which is cool. And then if you put a Pure on bottom, you have Fabled to crack and bring it back up to the top as well. Sideboard looks pretty set up against like some control. Mirror Reclamation and Kitty Cats maybe. Ooze for Kitty Cats, very nice. And just they're good cards in general if people aren't expecting creatures as well. I like this a lot. Ooze could probably come up to 3, but 2 is very solid. And we've got 2 extinction events. There are no board wipes main deck, which is very, very scary because I don't think you combo off very fast. I would say you could probably even replace the rewinds with like extinction events main, so you don't just die to aggro. That way you can extinction event and then spot removal what's left with like eliminate or something. I like that synergy is what I would probably do. So just some adjustments. It also depends on how much aggro you're running into and such. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, Narset stops the combo. That's a good point. Yeah, so not Narset. Other cards. So Crassus. So trim this for Crassus, like one of these for 2 Crassus, rewinds for like eliminate, maybe some board wipes, stuff like that. Just eliminate your own Narset. Yeah. Good talk. All right, but yeah, it was fun to play against. It was a little stressful because they had counter spells, which just means that my deck is a little weaker against like, you know, control and aggro. Or not control and aggro, control and like other decks that kind of run counter spells like Flash, for example, would be really hard for me. So but yeah, getting back to this deck, it was fun to play against and I enjoyed it. It was interesting to draw half my deck when he cast something at me. Should say they. I don't know if, well, Jeremiah is probably a guy, but I don't know. Want to make sure that I'm not being a dingleberry. Yeah, that pretty interesting though. I'd say just cut the rewinds for maybe board wipes and such. This and this for 2 Crassus board wipes here. What I'd probably say. If you want the deck list that I'm reviewing, it's right there. The one that I've been running is Esper Bolus. I can get you that link in a minute after the video. So this is Crim's Luris Control. This is not the final form, Crim said. 23 lands seems so low to me, but it seems like most of the deck is just 2 mana cards, 3 mana cards, so makes sense. That's just so little to me, especially when you have like Ugin and stuff in the sideboard and Necromania. Like, I don't know. This is a pretty cool card too over I forgot that this was a card that was printed over Unmoored Ego, which is interesting. 2 Cries for board wipes, 2 Robbers. This is a best of 3 list. I feel like these types of lists are better in best of 1 scenarios where because you're using so much of your sideboard for Fae of Wishes, I think in this case, right? Yeah, 1 Fae of Wish. You're using so much of your sideboard for that it's really, really weird to dedicate your sideboard here. You know, it's just, and you have Thought Distortion too, and you're only on 23 lands. Like, I don't think this card's very good. This card's pretty awesome. It's pretty interesting. It's just a little weird for me. Also, I think that Noxious Grasp should be eliminate, I would say. Although there are 3 eliminates main board, so this does something different that the other stuff doesn't. But it's like if we cut the Robber and we cut the Cry, we have 2 extra cards, and then we could just make this a best of 1 deck, but it'd require us to have more wipes, like Sweeper's main, so there's definitely a choice to be made for sure. Other than that, like 3 Mystical Disputes are pretty good, especially in best of 3, like probably a lot of Tumor Reclamation. And you've got Omens for quick cans. Like this allows you to like keep 2 landers with a 23 land deck, and it allows you to set up because you can probably draw a land off of that, scrying twice, keep land, boom, good. Scry, end of your opponent's turn, good. Can cast it with Luris as well, the Omen of the Sea, which is awesome. I love that recursion with Luris here. I can't see him down here, but he's in the list for sure. He's definitely in the list. It just didn't pick up, I don't think, when I exported the list. So I can edit that in, I think. But anyway, so it has Crocs as well. Yep, and you get to play this and pressure the opponent's hand. I think that this deck is very, very good. It's just crazy. It's just like a lot of value. You have a lot of tech too with Myers, and you have Lazav for Crocs. It just pressures in a very unique way. I love this list. 4 neutralize might be a little much. I might trim one of those for like a second Fey just for consistency there, so you can see the card a little more often in a 60 card pile. Because like, what if Fey is buried? Like, it's hard to get her back. So yeah, Myers Recursion's nice. It's a lot of targets. Mayhem Devils, Woe Striders, etc. I don't know if I like the one of Drown and Lock. It's kind of cute, but I think there are probably better one ofs. Like, I think this list, instead of adding like, unless you can like recur the one of, like Myers Grasp, completely understand the one of, perfect, because you can recur that. Soul Guide, if that was a one of, perfect, I understand that. But if you have a one of something like Drown and Lock, I'd rather just double up on Fey, like, you know, just to make sure I can get access to my sideboard, because that's the strength of this list, I feel, is the recursion plus just threatening to get something if your opponent doesn't end the game quick. And if your opponent goes to end the game quick, bam, Extinction Event, or bam, Cry of Carnarium from the sideboard, you know, and you just force them into overcommitting, especially since you're just pressuring their hand with these guys too, and then pressuring life total with Lazav. Like, it's just insane. It's super nice. You've got Discovery Dispersal. Late game bounce on this is super underrated. This is actually like underrated card of the week like 2 weeks ago, I think. I do a series every Wednesday. If you guys are into that, there's a playlist for it. You can find it pretty easily on the channel. But yeah, I like this list. I just think I would make some modifications to the sideboard, probably to hedge it into best of 1, because I think Fey is just stronger in that sense. But if you want to play it in best of 3, probably just trim up cards like Drown and Lock, maybe cut the neutralize, maybe add one more Fey, one more dispute for consistency maybe. And then, because you can always discard the disputes to Fey anyway, especially if you increase your number of Fey in the deck, you know, it makes sense. And then like maybe tweak the sideboard to be less like 6 mana cards that you never cast probably. And more about like having the third Cry for Carnarium for like best of 3, so you can actually bring in a sideboard, I would say, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to play this in best of 3 to me, unless like we're really taking out like the Fae of Wishes for, you know, a lot of control stuff or something, and then losing access to Luris, which doesn't feel good. But I like this list. Maybe I'll give a variation of this a go in best of 1 or something at some point. So appreciate you guys chilling out and watching the video. If you guys are interested in having your own list reviewed, simply stop by on Thursdays around probably around like 6 p.m. CST, Central Standard Time is usually when I start recording these on Thursdays, and then they go up on Saturdays. And you don't have to be a subscriber or anything or followed. You just simply drop by and drop your link in chat and be like, hey, I want to be in the video weekly analysis list. So cheers. There'll also be a link at the end of this video. It'll go to the credits where you can subscribe and see other content. I make a new YouTube video each and every day, and subscriptions really help the channel. So appreciate you guys. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them in the section below or stop by my stream, and see you then. Thanks for